Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here for another episode of Wuxia Weekend with Dion and Adam Balderstone. And tonight we're going to be talking about the movie The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. This is a 2008 Korean film directed by Kim Ji-woon, and it's sort of inspired by Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. There's definitely a lot of things that it shares with that movie, but it's more modern and has kind of like a stylistic element to it. And I don't know, would you say that this is a little bit on the humorous side to this film, or is that too strong a statement for a movie like this?
It's got its moments of humor.
It definitely has humor going for it, yeah.
And so it's basically a treasure map hunt. It starts on a train, and we have, the three, primary characters, the good, the bad, and the weird. And, it ends, like the good, the bad, and the ugly with like a Mexican standoff type situation. And there's a lot that happens in the middle, obviously. So I don't know, what did you guys think of this movie in general before we get into any of the details of it?
I enjoyed the movie. I think it went on a bit too long for me in some parts, but I enjoyed it. I thought that the humor was funny. I liked all three of the main characters. They all played excellent. The actors did an excellent job with the roles that they were in. You clearly know one of them's bad, but the other two you're not too sure about. But it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it on the whole. I agree that it at times did go on a bit long. I mean, it's one of those things where there's almost at times action scenes going a little too long, so you almost get kind of exhausted by them. And I'm not quite sure the ending really landed for me, but I mean, I'll wait till later in the podcast to get into specifics there. But that said, I on the whole enjoyed the movie, though. It's definitely worth seeing.
Yeah, I liked it. It wasn't my favorite movie in the world, but like I enjoyed it, and it had some really strong moments. I feel like it was more promising in the beginning. And then it kind of faltered a little bit, but then it got promising again, and then it would kind of falter a little bit, and then it would get promising again. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
And also it might just be a case of the movie wasn't doing anything in particular that was wrong. It's just that it didn't quite land with me the way that I think it might have landed for other people who I've heard from that enjoyed this movie more than I did. I mean, I did like it. I just was kind of. I don't know. I thought, again, I go back to those moments where I was like, ooh, this is really getting me interested. And then it kind of shifted gears and went some other direction. And then I had to reinvest my interest in it, if that makes sense. But yeah, so I don't know. Why don't we talk about the storyline in general? What do you guys think of the story? Is it that important in a movie like this? Did you, And have you guys seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Because obviously that colors...
I haven't.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah, and clearly it's referencing it. But
do you think that matters for this movie, Adam? Do you think that like sometimes like a movie will reference another movie and it's really significant and it helps make the movie make sense? Is this a film where that's the case, or is this a film where it's just sort of not parodying but just kind of emulating key beats?
I mean, it's obvious. I don't think you need to have seen Good, the Bad, the Ugly to enjoy it. I don't think it's going to enhance too much. There's moments you're like, oh yeah, this is kind of referencing it, and it never does it so heavy-handedly that I felt like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. But I don't know. I mean, obviously you'll get little winks to it here and there, but I don't think it makes a huge deal either way in this case.
I thought that it was going to follow and I know we're going to get to this later, so I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I thought it was going to follow the Mexican standoff at the end of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And in a way, I was glad that they at least deviated from that. Do you know what I mean? That it wasn't, But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was inspired by it clearly, like some of the basic plot stuff is very similar, and like what was that one? That was Confederate Gold, right? Was that the big MacGuffin in that one? And so it's a very similar type of plot, but it's a very different movie. I think it feels very different just by virtue of maybe where it's set, and also the vibe is kind of different too. And also, Good, the Bad, the Ugly is a very slow slow movie.
Yeah, the pacing is nothing like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I mean, some might use the word boring. Do you know what I mean, to describe Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
I guess I wouldn't, but I mean, honestly, I would. I think there were times I got. I don't know if bored's exactly the right word, but I kind of disengaged a little more at times during this movie because it would just. There'd be these scenes that were so fast for so long that I just, kind of started to detach a little bit.
But that's a different problem. That's a different problem.
Yeah, but Good, the Bad, the Ugly, I usually can stay engaged through that whole movie. So, but I don't know.
But you know what I mean? It moves very slowly. It doesn't move like pacing that people might be accustomed to today if they go
not
to
at all.
Good, Bad, the Ugly.
It is slower.
I mean, and there's a lot of you're looking at a guy's face right now for a really long time. Shots.
Yeah, I do remember once that I was watching. Well, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was on TV, and a friend of mine who'd never seen it. We kind of flipped through channels and came to it. He flipped to it during the last scene of the movie, and he's like, "All this movie is close-ups of people's faces." It's different if you watch it in context.
But even in context, there's a lot of that from the very beginning to the end. It's not an unwarranted comment.
No, I thought it was pretty funny actually.
But so okay. So what about the action then? Because Adam, you're saying the action of this movie, it was exhausting.
Well, it got exhausting. The action's great, until it becomes exhausting. I mean, like you said, it kind of you're into it. It gets really promising, and you kind of at a point where okay, and yeah, I mean it. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, there's kind of the question: does story matter in this movie? And it's I kind of wish story mattered a little bit more. There was a little bit more story going on through the movie, and just to kind of hold the action, tape the action together a little more, because I feel like a lot of the things emotionally don't land that should land. I mean, just to jump to a point in the movie, it's the guy that's the Taegu. It's his buddy gets killed, but there's no. This movie just moves on. It's okay, yeah. It's just there's lots of moments like that where things just don't have any weight to them. They just kind of happen because the movie's moving so quickly. Yeah. It's never referenced again. It's just in the rearview mirror.
And one problem that led to is in those moments I would often be like, well, did that guy just die, or am I because there was not even a craning of the head back to acknowledge that this, you know what I mean? It was just we've just, like you said, we moved on. Dion, how did you feel about the story and how it blended with the action and stuff?
I thought that there was not enough story, and like Adam said, that in key moments, like when his friend died, there really wasn't any emotional weight. But I think if they had taken some portions of the movie out and spent more time where the emotional weight was needed, it would have been a whole different story for me. Yeah. I didn't like the part towards the end where everybody's converging on this one spot, and there are all these horses and all these jeeps and all the artillery. If they had cut that scene out and then just completely focused more on the story and the people, I would have liked the movie even more. I just think that whole sequence was a waste of time. They were just blowing people up, just to blow people up. It just really wasn't relevant for me to the story.
Yeah, it felt kind of Road Warrior-esque, but Road Warrior is really good. And this most of the action movie did work, but that was just an action scene where nothing. And one thing too, I felt like all the main characters were utterly invincible during that scene.
Yes.
It's like everyone was getting blown up, but crazy things could happen to them, and they just couldn't be hurt. And I was just okay.
There was a great scene of a guy getting blown up on a horse, for example. That was fabulous. But like you said, the heroes were kind of impervious in that scene. It seemed. I felt like this.
And
movie... Oh, go ahead, Dion.
I was gonna say, there was one funny part in there that I did like, where Taegu was riding on his little motor car, and the two guys were in the Jeep, and him and the other guy switched positions in the vehicles, and then when the second guy in the Jeep with Taegu gets off, he had the dynamite in his pants and didn't know it, and he blew up. I thought that was pretty funny.
Also,
but the rest of that have been left out.
But I want to just mention too, before I forget to bring this up, because I know I will. Did anybody recognize the Park Duan actor from a certain other movie that we've covered?
He looks familiar to me. Who was
he? He did.
The Reign of Assassins movie. He was.
I knew him from somewhere, and I couldn't remember. I was like, oh, I know him.
Yeah.
That was. Yeah, in fact, I just double checked it just to make sure I wasn't misidentifying. But yeah, it was definitely him. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I to me, this movie felt like, I call it like a highlights movie. Like there's a lot of real highlights to the film that I'd almost like to see. Like if I rather than rewatch the movie, I just would rather watch the highlights of the movie. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
I agree.
Yeah, there's some cool scenes. Like a lot of the confrontations are cool. Like when what's the bad guy's name? Park Chang-yi. When he goes to his employer and kills him, I thought that was a really cool scene. You know what I mean? But I don't need the whole movie to enjoy that scene. I can just enjoy it, especially now that I know the context of everything. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like I can enjoy that one scene. Some of the scenes on the train I thought were really cool. Do you know what I mean? That opening sequence on the train.
Yeah, that was really good.
A lot of the marketplace fight was good too.
Yeah, the marketplace was great. I thought that was great. I loved the scenes with the Nana. Do you know what I mean? And like all the
that was a character where it's like she was kind of brought as like there's this Nana character, then no, she's never mentioned again. And it's just like what?
Well, yeah, and I'm wondering how the movie would have panned out if they had taken her with him the whole time.
I don't know that I necessarily would have wanted that, but you know. But once again, there's the kids that he picks up. It's like, you know, like within 5 minutes of them being put in the movie, suddenly they just kind of disappear from his motorcycle. It's like what happened there?
It's like he dropped them off in the middle of nowhere.
Well, and here's the thing. I think that's what's absent from this movie is the heart element. Like, if they had kept the granny in, right, that would have been an element of heart to the movie. This character would have been more fleshed out by this attachment to the granny character. If they had kept the kids in, that could have been some kind of, you know, like some kind of thing going on with him where you're just more sympathetic to the guy because he's treating these kids well. But it just doesn't go anywhere, so it sort of loses that. And not every movie has to have heart, but it's sort of like...
No! But it's the kids were brought in so abruptly and taken out so abruptly almost immediately. I was like, why did you even bring the kids?
Yeah. Well, they seemed important when they showed up, right? Just like the granny seems important, you know?
Exactly.
And the kids did give a little comedic moments when he kept saying, cover your eyes. And then the one girl stabs the guy in the butt like he did in the first guy. I mean, it was cute, but I think that they should have shown what he did with the kids. Or even at the end when they had the last scene during the credits, if they had shown him with the kids, I don't know. It just would have been better if we'd known a little bit more.
And Granny, what happened to Granny? Like, is Granny still alive? Do we have any knowledge of what's going on with her, or because I don't know, she was a character you want her to survive to the end of the movie. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, you know, his interaction with the kids were funny. His interaction with the granny was entertaining, and so that's why when they abruptly disappear, you're like, well, I was enjoying that element of the movie, and now it's just not there. But
then he had the one line where he said, "You're going to outlive me." And so I was thinking that was going to be important, that, you know, he was going to die at the end, but it didn't work out that way, which is fine, but we still need to know what happened to Granny.
And also that scene you were talking about, Dion, I did like when the general shows up, or whoever, I forget what his title was, but the military guy shows up. I think he was Japanese, and he says, I've been through all these wars, but I've never seen anything so horrific. No one killed in such a horrific manner. It was. There were some. Those scenes made me cringe. So did the scene where they try to take the finger. That scene was pretty tough to watch. And that scene becomes important later on in the movie as well. So, just because of what we find out about Yoon Tae-gu. So I don't know. Among the three characters, who were your favorites?
Tae-gu was my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, Tae-gu, I think, is he gets to be the most entertaining character in the movie. I would make him my favorite. They're all very good. It's not.
I kind of like Chang Yi. I think just because he's
sociopathic.
Yeah, well, he's just sort of like he's the bad guy in the movie. So, but I found his fight scenes the most stylized. You know what I mean? A lot of Tae-gu he's not really doing a whole lot action wise. When he is, it's not quite rising to the level of the proficiency that we find out later he has.
But I think that was the ruse to think of he was playing the fool the whole time, knowing we're thinking that he can't be anything good because most of his deaths that he caused were kind of by accident.
Yeah.
And kind of comedic. So
that's kind of why the ending didn't work for me, though. It felt like this twist came out of nowhere. I'm like, nothing in the movie so far fits with that twist. It just felt like I was like, okay.
Well, I didn't think that Chang Yi could be finger chopper.
I didn't either.
Especially after he had that, he tried to chop the finger off and it didn't work.
Let's talk about that twist. I enjoyed it, but I also shared some of Adam's concerns about it because I felt like it's fine if they want to conceal the fact that he's super good so that we're surprised by it, but there should be some evidence in the movie that pointed to that, and I also felt like, especially in scenes where he has no reason to disguise how good of a fighter he is, like the scene where he's fighting the guy and he's like sword fighting the guy in the prison, right? And it's almost like that fight scene from Bridget Jones' Diary between the two guys where they're just sort of, they're barely able to fight, right? It just looked like that kind of scene where like neither guy looked like they were particularly good at fighting. And just given the stakes of that situation, you would think that would be the time to, just use whatever skill you have in order to escape. So I thought that they could have planted seeds for it better, but I did enjoy it. Because I felt like what it did was they had built up the Park Chang-yi character the whole movie, and then when you realize, oh no, he was like on the receiving end of this treatment from Tae-gu, the guy that you don't think anything of, you suddenly, it's like everything just kind of reverses in your mind, and you have no idea how this final battle is going to play out.
Well, my hints were at the beginning when he shot when Chang Yi shot his own person for talking about the fact that they had a duel, him and Tae-gu, and he wanted to know who came out on top. I knew that there was something wrong there. And then when Tae-gu and Dong-won were in the desert sleeping, and Dong-won was talking about the finger chopper and how bad he was, and Tae-gu kept telling him he didn't want to hear it and he just wanted to go to sleep because it was a big day tomorrow. So I knew that there was something, for me, I knew that there was something up with those two.
That's fair, I think.
I feel like though, aside from the clues of it being, I still feel like they didn't make the finger chopper element important enough to me. I mean, basically, it's like, I don't know. I mean, we didn't get a sense. Like, we know the finger chopper's this bad guy apparently, but it's like the only concrete thing I can remember from the movie that we find out that he did is that he fought, Chang Yi, who's a terrible person, and it's like, well, why was finger chopper bad? Why does the revelation that he's finger chopper make him the worst person in the movie? I don't think the movie really ever quite gave us a reason for that. So
yeah, I didn't feel like I had the whole story either. So I would agree with that.
And if it wasn't the last scene of the movie, it's like it wouldn't matter as much to me. But I felt like at the end, all of a sudden, it's just this what?
So how did you feel about how the action scenes were shot and choreographed? Did the style work for you guys, or was it did it have problems? I know, Adam, you said you were exhausted by it a little bit, so we can obviously elaborate on that.
Sure. Yeah, Dion can start. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with the action sequences. The only thing that I had a problem with was the big blowing up scene towards the end of the movie. I liked the action sequences, and I loved the way Chang Yi moved so fluidly in his, like you said earlier, he was excellent. And the way that he was killing people, especially when he killed his boss with the knife in the back of the neck, you just never saw that coming at all.
Yeah, I thought that was cleverly done, that scene. And that was another one that made you kind of uncomfortable when, like, you realized the guy wasn't dead yet and he was crawling away.
Yes.
Yeah. See,
I was like, just stay dead. Just stay dead.
See, and that goes to my point of, like, that scene worked really well because it was a change in the pacing of the movie. There's all these really long scenes where it's action, 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 action. That was this kind of relatively slow scene where the violence just boom comes out of nowhere, and it just adds a really nice change to the movie. But no, I think the action was really well done. I mean, the action choreography is great. Like you say, the guy who played Chang Yi is really good. But yeah, it's just I just feel the pacing. It's more a direction thing than a fight choreography thing or action choreography thing. I just feel like the movie as a whole just needed a little more variety and pacing.
Okay. Yeah, and I enjoyed the action. I thought it was really good. I did occasionally I got a little bit confused, but I don't think that was really a problem because I think they were trying to make me confused a little bit. So I don't think it was as big of an issue as it felt at the time. And
where were you confused?
The shootout that they were having when he was trying to give the granny the map. Something about that scene, I was having trouble tracking all of the people involved.
Okay.
And I think it was because it felt like it wasn't quite shaky cam, but there was something shaky cam-esque about that scene. But for the most part, I didn't have that problem. That was just scenes like that, and I liked the comedy. I liked the way that the action sort of, there were a lot of. It wasn't like Jackie Chan style comedy action, right? Like it wasn't like a total even mixture of it. But there were some really funny moments, like the scene with the granny, which is mixed in with the action, and the scene when he leaps into the window of the bedroom, and there's that guy tied to the bed, and you're given like no explanation for what's going on, but and the woman's just trying to tell him to get out of the room, and it's just this like pestering thing in the background that's making it so much harder for him to do what he needs to do. So
I like when Taegu is fighting the big guy at the market, and he's like, gets pushed up through the roof, and he's like, "Throw me my guns!" And he just like tosses one gun, misses, the other one misses, and then ultimately they're lying there on the ground, and he gets. So that whole sequence was just fantastic. I really enjoyed that.
I liked when he was wearing the helmet and he was getting shot at.
Yeah, that was a funny scene. That was a funny scene.
Yeah. I mean, I've been complaining about the movie. There's so many good moments in this movie.
Well, that's why I say highlight. It's like a highlight movie. Like, there's a lot of stuff I really like. It's just not it's not a movie that I'm like immediately like, ooh, I got to watch that again right now.
Right.
I mean, it's not. That
yeah, I would still recommend it to anyone that likes action movies. It's totally worth watching. It just feels like if with a little bit of change, you just want it to be like this super classic movie because the good parts are so good, and it doesn't quite get there.
What did you guys think of the music in the movie?
I liked the music actually. Yeah, I mean it's definitely riffing on the spaghetti western thing at times, but that's a music thing that I like. So yeah, I was happy with the music.
I'm not too keen on westerns, but I do like that they did use the spaghetti western. I mean, it would have been weird if it weren't there.
Did you guys notice the what was it, the Santa Esmeralda version of "Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood" that they had used in Kill Bill during the?
I thought that was that. I wasn't sure. It was just so on the nose. I was like, is that really? I haven't seen Kill Bill in a really long time, so I couldn't.
I haven't seen it at all.
We need to do a Kill Bill episode at some point.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching that again. I'd be up for that.
It's one of these things, Dion. The thing that's great about Kill Bill is it rewards knowledge of Shaw Brothers. So
I've seen it before I got into watching Shaw Brothers movies, so it's going to be a whole new movie for me if I go back and watch it.
Yeah, like there's a lot of references to Shaw Brothers stuff, even stuff like sound effects. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but anyways, yeah, I thought the music worked. Though when I heard that song, it was a little bit jarring because I was like, oh man, that's like I can only think of Kill Bill when I think of that version of the song. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
So it was a little bit like, I think if they'd used something a little less familiar in that scene, it might have been even more effective. But
yeah, I can remember it crossing my mind when I was watching the movie. I'm like, I'm not sure if it is, and I thought about it. I was like, no, Brendan will have this covered. He's the soundtrack guy, so I'm just gonna wait for that to come up.
But yeah. So any other thoughts on the story, the action, before we move on to other things?
I think I'm good.
All right. So Adam, you said you wanted to wait until later to talk about the final standoff scene, so we should probably talk about that now.
Well, I think I've covered a lot of my issues, and my issues were mainly just the revelation of that didn't quite work for me, which kind of made that whole. I mean, that is a big part of the emotional weight of that scene. So I spent the end of the movie going, okay. I mean, I don't know. It just.
Were you happy with Who Lived and Died?
I was fine with that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's not a movie where. I mean, it's not a movie where I was super rooting for anyone to live or die, I have to say, which I guess says something about the movie. But I mean, I was enjoying it more in the moment to moment than, oh my God, I really hope this character lives or dies. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know who I wanted to live or die either, actually, in that scene. I was a little bit on the fence. Dion,
I wanted Don Juan to win.
What was that?
I wanted Don Juan to live. He was the only one. Well, I wanted Taigu to live too, but if he died because he was the finger chopper, he deserved it.
Okay.
But you know.
Yeah, I like Juan a lot. That's one thing too. There isn't that much of him in the movie, but he is a character that if there was a spin-off movie all about that character, I wouldn't mind watching that at all. So, there's something very interesting about that character.
It's funny too because it is like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where the visuals matter a lot for the good, the bad, and the ugly aspect of it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really get any explanation for why Duan is the good, but we just accept it because he's handsome and he looks like he's like a really nice guy, and we don't see him do anything bad. So
right,
good,
yeah.
And I kept waiting for some kind of like sheriff's badge or something to pop out from his shirt. That's why I was, thinking that he was the good guy. And then, obviously the bad was dressed all in black. And Taigu was just weird from the very beginning of the movie, So they were aptly named.
Yeah, in fact, I think the first time we see Taigu, isn't he eating noodles or something? And he's kind of just like sloppily chowing down.
Yeah, he's just a weird one.
But, so how would you guys classify this movie? Is it a pure action movie? Is it like, action comedy? Like how would you sell it to people?
Action comedy western.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I would definitely bring in the comedy aspect if I was selling it to someone. I mean, it's important enough that it's worth mentioning.
Definitely.
And so I guess we should move to the recommendations and ratings. Unless is there something that anybody wants to add before we get there? Is there anything we haven't covered?
Um, I'll bring it up during recommendations. So
Okay. All right. So remember, 1 to 5 rating. Who wants to go first? And no
I'll
half.
go first.
No, you go. Okay. Why don't you go first?
I recommend the movie. I give it a solid 3. I'm not going to give it a 4 just because I didn't like that one whole scene with everybody blowing up on the horses. That was just way too long for me.
Okay.
But I do give it a 3. I think everybody should watch it. It's a good movie, and like Brendan said, it's a highlight movie. There are some really, really, really good parts, but then there are a couple parts that just bring the rest of the movie down. And like Adam said, there's not enough emotional weight at key moments where you're totally invested in some of these characters. And you want to know more. Well, I wanted to know more about Don Juan, especially with the girl that was where they tied up Taigu and the other guy that was sitting at the campfire at the end. I wanted to know more about the 3 of them, how they related to each other.
I did too.
But,
I really wanted to know about that as well, because the woman had a very, not odd look, but there was something about her where I was like, I need to know what this situation is.
She was compelling.
Yeah.
Right. She had the short hair. At first I wasn't sure if it was a girl or a boy, but eventually I got it. But it's just, I don't know. I could have seen her and Taigu riding off into the sunset at the end of the movie, because something about her made me think that she might have been, if she'd been in more of the movie, a funny counterbalance to him. But I don't know. That's just my inkling. But I really would have liked to see more of her in the movie. But I give it a solid 3. I think people should see it.
Adam, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with basically everything you said, and I'd also give it a 3. But the other thing I'll recommend it on too is that I don't think we've really touched on is it's a really good setting. I mean, this movie set in like Japanese occupied Manchuria, from a Korean perspective. It's just this, it's this really kind of the world it takes place in is this really kind of compelling location that is not something I've seen in a movie before, and I like the whole aesthetic of the movie too. It's very good too, that it pulls from those little World War II pieces, like the bicycle with the sidecar and everything, and the goggles and all this stuff mixed with all these more Asian elements. I mean, everything just and the Western elements on top of it. I really like the look of this movie and the setting a lot, so I'd recommend it for that too.
What rating did you give it, Adam? I'm sorry, I don't know if I caught it.
I went with a 3 also.
3, okay.
Yeah.
And
but it's a high 3. It's a high 3.
A high 3. Okay. That sounds almost like a half. That sounds like we're trying to get away with a half rating there.
I'm gonna find a way to slip a half.
I need to come up with we need to come up with a penalty system of some kind. But so yeah, I would give it a 3 too. I would give it a 3 as well, and I think for me the reason is the one that I gave earlier, which is there were these promising moments where I was like expecting something to become more important, or I wanted it to be part of the movie, and it never really developed. It never carried forward into the rest of the film, and so and again, maybe that was just me bringing something to the movie that I shouldn't have brought, but it was enough that I had to sort of reinvest my interest from time to time. So I'd have to give it a 3, but I would recommend it, and I think it's definitely an unusual film. It's worth checking out, and it's got a very stylistic, way of presenting the action, and again, the highlights are great. Like I think you'll, when I think back on the movie, I have very fond memories of a lot of those scenes. So, it's got a lot of solid material in it, and yeah, so. Again, the movie is The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I just ended up buying it on Prime is how I ended up watching it. But I think occasionally I know a few years ago it was on Netflix, and I imagine it's one of those kind of movies where periodically you will be able to find it on streaming services.
It is on Hulu right now.
Oh, it's on Hulu.
I watched it.
Oh, okay. So if you have a Hulu subscription, is it free or do you have to pay for it?
No, it's free with a Hulu subscription. So.
Okay. I wish we could just consolidate all of these streaming services into one package, right? Because you have it's ridiculous the amount you would have to pay to be able to watch everything. But if you could trim that cost down just a little bit, I think people might be willing to.
Well, the one thing that's good about these services, they're all pay month by month, so it's easy to I go in and out of services a lot. Like I'll get Hulu for a couple months, go through everything I want to watch on Hulu, cancel Hulu, get Netflix for a while, jump over there. So it's like I just jump around a lot. That's how I deal with it.
I worry about how these things are going to affect the preservation of movies. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because we're not making DVDs. We still are, but like a lot of movies just don't even get DVDs. I think at this point now, and so I don't know. Well, I still kind of long for the days of the video store.
Well, maybe in the way that vinyl's made a comeback, like Blu-rays will make a comeback in the next year, and everyone will want to own them again and have them on their shelves. So hopefully we'll see the resurgence.
Somehow I doubt it. But I do think on the whole they're good. It's just that occasionally I'm like, well, I feel like there's a class of movie that we would be getting that we don't get on these Netflix and Prime services. Do you know what I mean? That very clearly would have been present at a video store.
Well, the other issue too is we get into like the 4K era. A lot of people have internet connections that can't handle that. I was talking to my boss last week, and she was just playing out that she's got this 4K TV, and it's like to watch a movie, she has to wait for it to actually download fully to get like a proper picture, as opposed to just watching it. And it's like this long wait. And
4K has other issues too, because we ended up getting a 4K TV, not understanding all of the problems inherent in it. And so if you play an older DVD, it looks really bad. It gets all pixelated and stuff because the format does. And I mean like a DVD from 2008, like not that old. So there's all kinds of issues like that as well. But yeah, so I should have mentioned this at the start of the program. But if people enjoy the show and they want to help us so that we can do things like, buy episodes of TV series or buy movies so that we can review them here, check out our Patreon page. We're gonna rework some of the reward levels. We've been talking about this past month, so those are gonna change, and they're gonna be improved actually. But but there are different reward levels, and you can pick the one that works for you, and it helps us out. So again, the movie is The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. It's available on Hulu. It's available to purchase on Prime, and I don't think it's on Netflix. And so, until next week, we will talk to you later.
Just my